Now, is Fourth Wing the greatest fantasy or romantasy of all time? No. Dear authors, first of all, hi, thank you for being here. I've realized for the last year, it's been longer, but for the last year it's been louder and more noticeable, especially on social media, of authors being excessively judgmental of other authors, especially authors that seem to be getting better opportunity or more opportunity, or like their book is super famous and it doesn't make sense because why, right? And at first I was like, oh, like, whatever, there's a group of people bickering. I don't need to pay attention to it because, like, it's not affecting my experience of reading or acquiring books, right? However, it has gotten to a point where something needs to be said because a lot of people are complaining and being judgmental of Fourth Wing. Now, is Fourth Wing the greatest fantasy or romantasy of all time? No. Is it even like something that should be held up? I don't know. But how do I put this? I read A Throne of Glass and I enjoyed my time reading it. When I finished the book, I just felt like, wow, that was or mediocre, maybe even trash. And once I realized I was being judgmental of something that's popular, I was like, okay, I get why some of these authors are saying stuff, right? But then a week later I read Fourth Wing, and like I said, well, it's not like the best fantasy ever written. It's not this masterpiece or this book that's probably ever going to get literary awards or academic awards. It was never trying to. And part of the reason I like Fourth Wing is because it's very clear in what it is and what it's trying to accomplish. And so for people to be saying all the stuff that isn't true about it and doesn't even make sense because they're bothered that this book got attention and so they think their work is not getting opportunity or attention, that's the part that kills me. Because look, yes, there are multiple mindsets you could have. You could have the mindset of everyone's taking my opportunities, everyone's paying attention to these things that are lesser than, or stupid, or silly, or not as like developed or evolved as the piece of art that I've made. Or you can think that there is room for everyone, or at least anyone that's made something that's halfway decent, there's room for that person's work, right? And I wouldn't say Fourth Wing is a masterpiece. I wouldn't even say that Fourth Wing is this particular author's masterpiece. I think they're going to go on and write something else that's actually going to be like more of a work of art, whereas Fourth Wing is more brain candy. And the fact is I've never loved when a piece of media has like a content warning, ever, but this particular book, this kind of has a content or a trigger warning page, but on that page it says, this is what I am, this is what you should expect, and if I deviate from what I'm saying I am, like, that's when you can have like negative feelings. These authors specifically making comments and judgments about it, I feel like haven't actually read this book, or they read the book too quickly and didn't actually get anything from it. Because if you understood why Fourth Wing was popular, maybe you would get your work out there. What is Fourth Wing, right? Let's go there first, because if this book is so popular and getting so much attention and all these authors are saying it's not worth the attention, let's talk about what Fourth Wing actually is, right? It's a novel, right? It's a romantasy, right? It looks like this, right? Right? And it's a series. This is the first book of a series. The Imperium series, right? It's about dragons. Cool, right? It's very surface level honest about what it is. Whereas I feel like a lot of people's work isn't as honest about what it is. Sorry, that was loud page turning. But like I said, this book has like a content warning, trigger warning page, which normally, like I said, I absolutely hate. But I appreciate that in this, it's very honest about what it is. Not just like, oh, this book may contain blah, 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 right? So I'm going to read this because I think this is actually important to why people are getting this so wrong, okay? Especially these authors. Okay? Fourth Wing is a non-stop thrilling adventure fantasy set in the brutal and competitive world of a military college for dragon riders, which includes elements regarding war, battle, hand-to-hand combat, perilous situations, blood, intense violence, brutal injuries, death, poisoning, graphic language, and sexual activities that are shown on the page. Readers who may be sensitive to these elements, please take note and prepare to enter the war college, right? Now, that's very simplistic, but it's very honest about what it is, right? If you want your piece of work to be popular, you write something that's more brain candy, right? If you want to make art, you might have less of an audience and less of a reach, but that doesn't mean you won't have an audience. Dear authors, there is still room for your work. In fact, you should be thanking Fourth Wing because Fourth Wing, books and books like it that are super popular for a reason, and once you understand that, you are going to get further with your work. Okay? Fourth Wing is a fantasy. Fourth Wing is very honest about what it is. Fourth Wing knows that it's a gate, that it's brain candy. What is brain candy? It's a piece of media that is easy, fun, enjoyable, enchanting, you in a state of wonder and curiosity, right? And captures your attention, captures your emotion. But a lot of the times, things that are brain candy are kind of trying to serve the lowest common denominator. They're trying to get as wide of an audience as possible. They're trying to, like, this author has been very honest about this book is supposed to get people into this genre. This author has also said things about this is just to get people reading for fun. And that's kind of what brain candy books are. They're just fun. They're just easy. They're just things that you could turn off some aspects of your brain and just enjoy it. And, well, there's nothing wrong with writing something like that. Don't be surprised when something like that gets an audience, right? And honestly, authors should be thanking Fourth Wing because when something is brain candy and then becomes popular, guess what? Everyone then wants to read things that are like it. I read a book, regardless if I liked that book or hated that book. I want to read another book. And if I hated that book, maybe I want to read something in a completely different genre, right? And if I love the book, maybe I still want to read something in a completely different genre. When I finished Fourth Wing the first time, I wanted to read nonfiction history, right? I wanted to read nonfiction books about pirates. Why? Because there is similar elements, but I want to hear like more truthful examples of war and history of war and things that happen to people in like similar environments, but like, you know, were actually real, right? I also, after Fourth Wing, the first time I wanted to read like spy stuff, fictional and non-fictional spy stuff. So like Fourth Wing made me want to continue reading other things. Regardless if I like a book or don't, I still want to read. That doesn't stop me from wanting to read. In fact, it usually pushes me to read more and find other things and look for other things. And guess what? Once you finish a book like this, you do want to read more. And where are you going to turn towards? Things, probably a lot of people, if they loved it, they're going to want something very similar. If they hated it, they're going to want like the opposite. And so this just gives authors more opportunity. I don't understand this lack mentality that is going around. And I get it. It's easy to hate on art that's not yours or your friends, right? But if a piece of art, even if it's brain candy, helps get people into reading for fun, helps people start looking for more things, maybe even better things, why are we like complaining that it got popular? Because it only helps open more doors and more windows for more things to get published, for people to go and find series that already exist that have similar things in them. Like, I didn't actually even know about certain dragon series that made fantasy popular, right? But after I read Fourth Ring, guess what I was looking for? Other series that have dragons. And I found like the more classic stories for that genre, right? That have dragons. And probably are better. But who knows? Because I'm not going to know until I read them, right? And so to hate on something just because it's popular, like, come on. Come on, we can do better. We can do better.